Hey y'all, welcome back to MamaFin's Kitchen. It's Sunday afternoon. It's a beautiful, sunshining spring day in Kansas. My husband and I have been doing yard work all weekend long. But in preparation for the week, I'm gonna get ready to make some pressure cooker steel cut oats. We're gonna flavor them with a maple apple pie kind of flavoring. And he is looking for some breakfast that he can have quick to heat up before he goes to work in the mornings. He's still going to work. He's an essential employee, so he gets up and goes to work every day, and I'm grateful for that, and I pray for his safety all the time as we're going through this time in our country, this very odd time of corona and social distancing and all that good kind of stuff. So we're gonna make steel cut oats, and we're going to do them in our handy dandy electric pressure cooker. If you don't have an electric pressure cooker, you can still do steel cut oats on the stovetop the old-fashioned way. You can use some of these same flavorings and do it the same way, but I want to show you how to do it in your pressure cooker. Super easy, super fast, and I think you'll really love it. It gets great flavor, and they come out beautiful, creamy deliciousness. And it makes for a great breakfast that he can heat up throughout the week. Our cast of characters that we have for this is we're going to need steel cut oats. You'll need some of those. You'll also want water, milk. So we've got our milk here sitting here. We're gonna need some vanilla. We're gonna need some cinnamon and some apple pie spice, some sea salt, as well as some maple syrup. And you can pull out maple syrup from your fridge or whatever you use for pancakes, and we'll use that towards the end along with this vanilla. So we'll use those two items towards the end of this. Won't need it for the cooking right here at the front, but you will need some maple syrup. So to dice up our apples, we're just gonna dice these up nice and finely. You wanna get a nice fine dice on these, mainly because you're gonna put it into the oatmeal and you don't want big chunks of apple and make it difficult to eat. So you want nice little bite-sized chunks. And this is a great way, if you've got some apples that have been sitting on your counter for just a little while during this COVID, and if they're starting to get a little soft, they may not be quite as crisp as they used to be. This is a great way to use up some of those Granny Smith apples, because you're going to cook them and they're going to get soft anyways. The only thing that I would tell you about choosing the apple that you want to put into this is I want you to choose an apple that would be used for cooking. You would not want to use, say, a Red Delicious or something like that. It won't stand up to the heat, and it will just turn into mush in your pressure cooker. So choose a baking apple. Granny Smiths work great for it just because they're nice and tart, but they also stand up. They're a little stout, and they stand up to the heat of a pressure cooker. Now you're also noticing that I did not peel these. The pressure cooker is going to cook that peel, and you won't need to peel it. If you have a distaste for the texture of that, you can certainly peel these if you'd like to. So that's kind of up to you, if you want to or not. I choose not to, because I ain't got time for that. But dice these up into a nice fine dice. Okay kids, so now we've got our handy dandy electric pressure cooker. Mine is plugged in, so I'm just going to turn him on. And I want you to set your pressure cooker to be at a high pressure, and we're going to set it at high pressure for 4 minutes. So I want you to go ahead and set this right now. On my Ultra, the way you do that is you turn this dial up to pressure cook, you push the button and select it, then we're going to set our time. We want to set it to 4 minutes, and it's already set on high pressure, you can see right there. So we're going to push that to select it, and then we're going to hit the start button. And the reason that I want you to go ahead and get this started is while you're adding all these ingredients, your pot can be warming up, and it can be getting warm, and so it won't take quite as long to come to pressure if you're adding these things and your pot's getting warm at the same time. Okay, so we're going to now start our process of adding all of our ingredients to our pressure cooker. The first thing I want you to do is take 1.5 cups of water. Make sure that your insert is in the pot, because the last thing you want to do is put liquid down into your machine. I want you to put 1.5 cups of water into your insert, and then we're going to add 1.5 cups of milk as well to the insert. And then I want you to put your apples in. All those beautiful apples that we diced earlier. And I want you to add in 2 teaspoons of apple pie spice. And apple pie spice is a mixture of spices. It's generally cinnamon, a couple kinds of cinnamon maybe, some nutmeg, mace, and cloves. So I want you to put in a good couple of teaspoons of that. And then I also want you to put in 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. So even though there's cinnamon in our apple pie spice, we want to put in more cinnamon because we really want to make this nice and cinnamon-y. So 2 teaspoons of cinnamon in there. And then I want you to put in 1 teaspoon of salt. I generally use kosher sea salt. A teaspoon of salt in. And then of course we need to put in our oats. So we've got 1 cup of the steel cut oats. We want to put that in. Then just grab a spatula, kind of stir that around, get all of this mixed together. Delicious. Just like that. And then I want you to take your lid and I want you to lock it in place. On my Ultra, you don't have to set your nozzle to sealing or venting. If you have a different version of the Instant Pot, you may have to set this to be sealing. If so, go ahead and set it to sealing at this time. Just lock it in and let it come up to pressure. The Ultra, as you can see where it's at in the process, there's a little graph right here on the front that tells you right now it's preheating. So right now he's still building pressure. He's building pressure inside the machine, which is great. And it still says on right here. It's not going to start counting down your time of your 4 minutes of time until after it comes up to pressure. So we need to wait on this to come up to pressure. It's going to take it a little while to come to pressure, probably 5 minutes or so, just because there is cold liquid in there. That milk was pretty cold that we put in there. So just wait for it to come up to pressure and you'll be good to go. So just an update for you. We're getting there on our pressure. We're further up on the graph. We still have a little ways to go, but we're starting to come up to pressure and I can start to hear things kind of bubbling inside there. So that's a good sign as well. We're still coming up to pressure here and you can see that we're getting there. But the other thing I want you to notice is if you listen real carefully, you can start to kind of hear it. And you can hear it starting to build that pressure. So you know you're starting to get close when you start to hear that. And again, this little pin right here is not popped up yet, so we know it's not up to pressure. But you can hear it, it's really starting to come. And it won't be very long, and that's probably gonna come to pressure here pretty quick like. Is he starting to jiggle a little bit? He's getting there. And there it goes. So that little lever, that little indicator just popped up. So we know we're at pressure now. And as I mentioned, you cannot now open that lid. That lid is now locked down and tight into place. And at the same time, we are still say on for just a moment. That will say on until the machine registers the electronics inside that it has fully come to pressure. Once it has registered that, it's gonna start counting down from our cook time. It will start to put our 4 minutes right here instead of the word on, and it will say 4 minutes and it will start to count down the cook time. So it will take it usually just a minute or so until it figures out and it registers that everything has come to pressure inside and everything's normal and everything's good. But what I want you to know and listen for is that this is really quiet. The only thing you're hearing right now in the background is water dripping in my sink because I have a big ice block that's melting in my sink. So you can hear the water dripping, but the machine itself is very, very quiet right at the moment. Now you can see that our machine no longer says on. It just beeped at me and it changed to say this 4 minutes. So now it's gonna start cooking and counting down from that 4 minutes. Once our 4 minutes is complete, we wanna let this sit with a natural release for 15 minutes. So we're gonna let it cook for 4 minutes, and then once it's done cooking, we're going to let it just sit here and we're gonna do nothing. We're not gonna touch it, we're not gonna release the pressure, we're not gonna do anything. We're just gonna let it sit here for 15 minutes once that cook time is done. Okay, so we've been cooking for 2 minutes, and as you can see on our graph, it shows us that we're cooking, and we have 2 minutes left on our cook time. Okay, so you just saw that our cook time is done. So we just now went to 0 minutes. We finished the last minute of cooking. And as you can see on the graph right here now, it says it's going into a keep warm function. That's fantastic. At the same time, it's going to keep that warm, but we want to start letting this pressure that's inside here, because as you can see from the top, our little pin is still up. We're still fully under pressure. We want to now let this sit here and naturally release the pressure for 15 minutes. I don't want you to touch it. I don't want you to release the pressure manually at all. I just want you to let it sit here and do nothing. And as you'll see, our countdown is at 0, and now it's going to start counting up. If you have a different version of an Instant Pot, it would put an L right here in the front, and it would have you an L here, and then it would start counting, instead of counting down like it did earlier from 4 minutes down, it'll start counting upwards. So it would have an L here, and then it would go from 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Right, and so it has now been sitting here for 1 minute, and it's in its keep warm. On the Ultra, you can tell that it's in keep warm because it's in this little part of the graph that says keep warm down here. So we're gonna let this sit here until it counts to 15 minutes. Once it's at 15 minutes, if there's any pressure remaining inside of it, we're gonna let it out. It may have released all of its pressure at that point. We'll just see. It kind of depends, and it varies from time to time. So just let it sit here until that reaches 15 minutes. Okay, so we have gone from 14 minutes to 16 minutes because I wasn't totally paying attention, but that's no problem. An extra minute will not hurt a thing. So we have had enough time to naturally release, but as you can see, we still have pressure inside of our machine because our little valve is still popped up here. So we're going to release whatever pressure is left inside of our machine. So in order to do that on this particular machine, we're going to push this release button. If you happen to have a different type of pressure cooker, you may have a little lever right here that you need to slide back and forth. So just be careful when you do that because there will be steam inside here and you don't want to burn yourself. There isn't a ton of pressure left inside here, as you can see. So we're going to let that out until that little pin drops right there on the top. I will tell you that the smell coming out of there right at the moment is delightful. You can smell the cinnamon and the apple pie spice. You can smell the nutmeg and the cinnamon. It's just, it's so warm smelling. So good. So we're just about done with the pressure coming out of there. Yep, and there are a little pin dropped. We can turn the lid now. Now when you go to turn this lid and open this, I want you to be really, really careful because it's going to be really hot and steamy inside. So when you lift this lid off, I want you to lift it carefully, and then I want you to tip it here to the side and let any of the moisture drip down inside there, okay? And then you can use the handy dandy little holes in the handle to set your lid. Okay, now you can see down inside of our pot that we have our cinnamon is kind of risen to the top, and our apples are in there, and they look, I mean, this just looks amazing. Be very careful. That insert right there is really hot. So if you're gonna touch it, make sure like grab a towel or a pot holder or something like that. We're just gonna stir this, stir all that cinnamon back in together. I mean, look at that. Doesn't that look amazing? So good. And we want to add in our maple syrup. So I have right here beside me, I have about 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup of maple syrup that we're going to put down in there. And after you taste this, if you think it needs more maple syrup, by all means, add more. We want to add this maple syrup here at the end because we're not really trying to cook the maple syrup into it. We just want that flavor added in. So good. So we're adding it here at the end. And then the vanilla we want to add here at the end as well. And we're going to put a couple of teaspoons of vanilla in here. And the reason we want to add this in is we don't want it to weaken in that intense pressure cooking. And as always, I'm using my local vein vanilla. This one happens to be a vanilla that is done in an apple brandy. So I figured apple brandy, why not, right? So as always, support your local businesses, support your local companies. Vein Vanilla is out of Kansas City. You can find them at vainfoods.com. They have a plethora of types of different vanillas done in different kinds of liqueurs and different spirits, and they are fantastic. This one in the apple brandy smells amazing, and it adds a great flavor to our oats. So we just stir that in. So we're gonna spoon up just a little bit of this so we can taste it and make sure that everything, all of our flavors are together just right. So I've got myself a little dish of it here. For breakfast, normally bigger dish, of course, but we're gonna try this, make sure that if we need any more maple syrup or if we need any more vanilla, anything like that. Be careful, it's really, really hot. Y'all, that's so good. It's warm, it's comforting, cinnamony. It's got a little hint of nutmeg from the apple pie spice. The apples are nice and toasty warm, soft, but they still kind of hold together. As you can see from this bite here, that there's nice amounts of apples in here with our oats. I'll show you a little closer. But I mean, look at that. So good. Warm, nourishing breakfast. Get your day started just right. This full recipe is also on my blog. So if y'all want to join me over at my blog, I'd love to have you at MamaFin Cooks on my blog. It's at lfinson.blogspot.com. It's also in the description of this video. Join me there. The full recipe is there. You can also click for a printable version of it so that you can print it off and have it in your kitchen anytime that you want it. I really appreciate y'all coming to my kitchen. This has been kind of fun to do. I'm getting better at this as we go along. A little shaky in the beginning, but we're getting better. We'll try to make these a little bit shorter as we go. They've been a little bit long, I know, here at the beginning for some of these recipes, but thanks for hanging in with me as we're learning together about how all this YouTube stuff works. Join me next time in Mama Fin's kitchen, and stay safe, stay healthy, take care of each other, love on one another, and have a blessed week.